Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from simpleprogrammer.com. Just finished my workout here at the University of Northern Las Vegas Rec Center. Got a membership here for a week while I was here in Vegas, partying, having a good time at MicroConf. Thought I'd do a video about something I think is really important to understand, that especially when it comes to social situations, when it comes to negotiating, for you guys out there, when it comes to picking up women, when it comes to basically getting people to either like you, do what you want, or to be influenced by you. And the concept I want to talk about today is frame. And specifically, I want to talk about the importance of setting a frame and having a powerful frame versus using words or tactics. So I went out with a couple of friends from the conference last night, and I showed them some techniques. Well, I showed them how it's done, right? For a couple of the guys were maybe a little bit shy and stuff, and had no idea how to go and pick up girls at nightclub. So I showed them how to do it, right? I went to a table and without going into too many details, I give them a little bit of advice on that. And the funny thing is, I was thinking about that as I think about what I was doing. I realized that it didn't really matter what I said, right? I was giving them some specific tactic advice, like, oh, say this, go up and say this, and there's some, strategy and tactic to social situation dynamics like that. But the primary thing was that the frame, the way that I was coming across, right? When I was coming across, I was confident. I know exactly how it's going to play out. I'm not worried about the outcome. I know that no matter what, I'm going to have fun and I'm going to have a good time. And whatever comes back, whatever I say, whatever comes back, I'm just going to respond some way and have confidence in my ability to respond. And I'm projecting that when I'm talking. So I don't want to go into details about that. That's a little boring to some of you, but I do want to talk about the concept of frame and how important it is. So first of all, let's talk about what frame is. So what do I mean when I talk about frame? Every time that you're in an interaction with someone, you have there's a frame that's being set. So you bring your own frame into an interaction with someone, and they also bring their frame. And whatever is the more powerful frame, that's the frame that's going to be what the reality is. So people are going to believe and be influenced by whichever frame is more powerful. Now, what does that mean? What exactly is a frame? So a frame is basically the belief that you have about how the world works, what the current context and situation is. So what do I mean by that, and why is that important? Okay, so think about it this way. There's a lot of information to process, right? When you're going around, when you're absorbing all the sights and sounds and images and all of these things that are in your environment to process, your brain can't process all of it. It has to take some shortcuts. It can't check everything and evaluate everything and say, do I believe this or not? Is this true? Can I analytically analyze all of these things? Instead, what it has to do is it has to go on cues, subtle cues, and basically has to take most things at face value. So if a person comes in and they have a belief about a situation, most of the time if someone tells you something, you do not assume they're lying, right? Unless you detect an incongruency or an inconsistency with what they're saying and how they're behaving and acting. So the more in line that the person acts and behaves, and the more powerfully that they are able to be sure of what they're saying, the more powerfully they come across, the stronger their frame is. Also, how they face resistance. So if you're resisting their frame, if you are putting up some kind of resistance against that frame, and it's not affecting them in any way, they're continuing within their frame is strong, okay? So that's the idea of a frame. Now, specifically, like I said, maybe I'll go into a little bit of details of last night if it's relevant here, but specifically how it comes into social situations. Specifically, almost dropped my phone. For you guys out there that are maybe you're trying to pick up girls at a nightclub. It's harder, right, than just going to a coffee shop or something, because there's a different frame there. There's like a different, it's actually a different context, right? So, and they're carrying very strong frames because the frame, let's say, this is a good one, this actually. So the frame at a nightclub, right, say expensive nightclub, is these girls are the prize. That is their frame. It's an easy frame for them to carry. Why? Because it's all set up that way, with them letting the girls into the club, with them being the ones that most of the guys are chasing, right? That scenario and that context helps to set that frame and establish it. So when you're a guy coming up to, let's say, a group of girls, and you want to establish a different frame, which is a frame to say that you are the prize and you're the one who's a lot of fun and the entertainment, and they should be chasing after you, then it's a hard sell, right? So, but it is quite possible, right? And like I said, I demonstrated it, did not record it, but just for demonstration purposes. But I want to talk about how the tactics that some people use don't really work when they don't have the frame. So, for example, I'm trying to think about how to say this. So, I went up to my buddy had a table at one of the clubs, and he said, well, I'm just going to sit here and the girls will come to the table. And I said, no, let me, I'll hook you up. I'll go out there and I'll hook you up. So I found some group of 7 good-looking girls, and I went up to them and I said, hey, and I paused. I just said, hey, I paused, right? I said, I'm on a mission. And then I paused. Didn't say anything, just right? So again, what am I doing there when I'm pausing? I'm helping establishing my frame, because I'm saying, look, I'm so important that I don't care about appearing awkward. I don't care about an awkward silence. I'm not even uncomfortable just pausing here. And I want you to make the next move. I want you to ask me a question. I'm going to wait here. You can be uncomfortable as long as you want. It's fine with me, right? That's the frame I'm setting, right? And my actions, my face, the way I'm coming across is congruent. It's consistent with what I'm saying, what I'm doing, right? There's no incongruency here. So of course, what do they say? They say, well, what's your mission? And I say, well, I'm looking for hot girls. Right? And so again, I pause. Now what happens there? Again, setting the frame. Again, making them say, well, we're hot girls. Okay, so now they've had to justify to me that they're hot girls, because I didn't say you are hot girls. I said I'm looking for hot girls. I said I'm on a mission. I'm looking for hot girls. I didn't say that they were, but they had to say it. So now I've sort of switched things around. Now my frame is dominant amongst those 7 girls, right? That not only that, but the fact that I came up and approached to 7 girls that were by themselves, right? Not just 2, not just 1, right? But 7 of them. That also helped me to come in as a dominant frame, because, hey, this guy must have a lot of confidence if he just comes up to 7 girls and starts talking to them and came right up to them, didn't like wait around for a minute and see if they're looking over here. Okay, so again, I'm not doing this to brag. I just want to show you how important this is, because it doesn't just apply to the situation, but for you guys out there, it's important to kind of dissect this a little bit. So then, of course, I say, okay, my buddy's got a table. I basically say, look, I only have 2 arms, and so I can escort 2 of you over to the table, but the rest of you are welcome to come. And then, of course, I take 7 girls over to the table with 2 of them on my arms. Now, and then I gave him over to my buddy, okay? And then he took it from there. So, of course, you have to understand another thing here, right? This is just for demonstration purposes, by the way. I don't want you to get the wrong idea here, all right? What happened then? Did he have a story? So he then, because I did it and I brought those girls over there, he wasn't coming in with a very strong frame, right? So he probably, they didn't hang around too long, and then they left. And that's what's going to happen. But the point is this, right? I could go on for this for a long time, but it had nothing to do with what I said. I could have gone over there to that group of girls and I could have said, my pants are on fire. And they would have said, what? Right? I don't know, right? You know what I mean? I could have said whatever. I could have said, hey, do you want to see a magic trick? I could have sauld whatever. How I delivered it was what was important, the frame. At the same time, my buddy or someone, who wasn't able to set a frame, who was incongruent or inconsistent with what they're saying, I could give them the best advice. I could give them those exact words that I said, and they could say those things, okay? And because they don't have a consistent frame, because there's an inconsistency, because their hands are in their pocket, because they're standing around with one leg over the other leg like this, right? Because they're doing that, because they're stuttering a little bit, because they're leaning backwards, right? And they got one foot out of the circle. All of these little movements and actions, the way that they say the words, not having a long enough pause, right? Just the facial expressions that they have, it all conveys the congruency or discongruency with what they're saying. And we human beings, especially women, but human beings in general, are very good at detecting and finding inconsistencies and incongruencies with people's actions and their behavior and what they say. And when those things don't match up, we think they're a fraud. And when those things don't match up, guys, girls know that you're a, quote, nice guy. You're just pretending. You're not being real. You're not being true. You're not being genuine to yourself. That's why a lot of these videos I do for you guys is I talk about how important it is to be free. I did this video on freedom, what I call freedom, which is to be able to do what you want without caring what people think. Why it's important to be genuine and to come across that way, and to have enough self-confidence that you've built up in yourself that you can do and deliver these things. So it doesn't matter if you have the smoothest words and tactics in the world, right? And again, this has nothing to do, well, it has everything to do and nothing to do with hitting on girls, with relationships. It has everything to do with social dynamics, with interacting with people. You know, so you could use the similar type of technique, meeting guy friends, right? Making friends with maybe higher profile males. You could use the same tactics, or well, the same, not tactics, because it's really principle when negotiating a raise, when trying to get a job, when trying to get a client, whatever social interaction that you're going to have, this is going to help you out. So I'm trying to think. I think that's about it. I mean, this is a pretty long video, but the key underlying point is just simply this: you need to understand what a frame is, and the fact that every time that two people interact, or more than two people, you know, when there's seven, there's a very powerful frame there. It takes a lot to break that frame and to bring my frame to be the dominant frame. But you have to understand that when people interact, there are frames, okay? And you are going to be bringing your frame, and one frame always wins, okay? There's actually a really good book on this, and I keep forgetting the name of it. It's about negotiating for funding. We'll put it here. I think Rodrigo will have to ask me because I can't remember what the name. I've mentioned this book several times, but it does talk about frames and frame control and how important that is. But that's the number one thing that you have to understand, is that there are frames in action, and you have to understand that if you want to have a strong, powerful frame, everything has to line up. So for you guys out there, if you're going and you're going to go hit on a girl, you're going to go talk to a girl, it really doesn't matter a whole lot what you say. It matters how you come across, right? So you need to practice the confidence, the laughing it off. That's why you need a lot of practice, a lot of tries, because if you go and you've done this 150, 200 times, you're gonna feel comfortable. You're gonna be like, it doesn't really matter what the outcome is, because it's fun. Like it's not gonna be so you're not gonna be so nervous, hopefully, right? And hopefully you have a few good outcomes, which will give you a lot of confidence. But you have to understand that frame. And then the second thing I would say is secondly, remember, words. Words don't matter. It doesn't matter what you say. There's no magic words. There's no magic phrases that I'm going to give you. I could give you some phrases that would help you to open a set of girls or something like that, but it's not going to matter if you cannot deliver it, right? Again, maybe those are two of the same points, but it's critical to understand that. So I hope that helps you, and I hope you get this and understand what's going on. And again, you know, I don't really want to talk about the demonstration I did for those guys, because I really don't want it to come off in the wrong way. Understand that was demonstration purposes, and of course I'm not going to film that at a club. Maybe sometime in the future, if you all ask real nicely. But anyway, I hope you have a good day, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, click the subscribe button below. I'm gonna head back to my hotel room and get cleaned up here. Talk to you later.